Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into the story of Potidaea, a small city with a loyalty problem so massive it helped light the fuse on a war that tore the ancient Greek world apart for 27 years. When you think about huge wars, you probably imagine these grand, epic causes, big ideological clashes between superpowers. But sometimes the final trigger, the thing that makes war totally unavoidable, is a fight over a place that seems, well, kind of minor. So let's get into the crisis at Potidaea. And here's the big question we're going to tackle. Was this the actual spark that lit the flame of the Peloponnesian War? Or was it just the first crack you could see in a foundation that was already about to crumble? All right, so to really wrap our heads around this crisis, you have to understand the absolutely impossible position Potidaea was in. This was a city caught between two powerful masters. Just look at this. It's like a geological fault line running right down the middle of the city. On one hand, Potidaea was a colony of Corinth. It had deep cultural, political, even family ties. They still got their city leaders from Corinth every year. But, on the other hand, it was a member of the Delian League, which meant it had to pay tribute and take orders from Athens, the head of what was basically the Athenian Empire. And this whole balancing act, it kind of worked, as long as Athens and its big rival, Corinth, were keeping the peace. But just the year before, in 433 BC, their navies had a huge clash over an island called Corcyra, and just like that, the peace was shattered, and Potidaea's divided loyalty went from being a headache to a full-blown explosive crisis. So, if things weren't messy enough, a third player enters the game. A really clever, manipulative king from the north who decided, you know what, let's just throw some gasoline on this fire. This guy, King Perdiccas of Macedon, he saw total opportunity in all this chaos. He was terrified of Athens getting more and more powerful on his doorstep, so he didn't just whisper in Potidaea's ear telling them to revolt. No, he engineered a much bigger problem. He got neighboring cities to join in, and then, and this was a brilliant move, he had them all abandon their towns and move into one single fortified city. This created a united front that was way more dangerous, and it made an already nervous Athens absolutely frantic. So you've got this perfect storm brewing. Athens is anxious, Corinth is furious, and King Perdiccas is stirring the pot. It's no surprise that a series of events then happened so fast, it pushed everyone right past the point of no return. And man, you can see just how quickly everything went off the rails. First, Athens makes this heavy-handed demand, trying to neutralize the threat. That backfires, big time. It pushes Potidaea to ask Sparta for help, and they get a secret promise of backup. That gives them the confidence to openly revolt. Corinth immediately sends in troops, volunteers they called them, and boom, suddenly Athens is stuck in a costly siege. A local problem had just blown up into a major international incident. Okay, so how do we know all of this? Well, our main guy for all of this is the brilliant historian Thucydides. He was actually alive when this was all going down. But here's the thing, was he giving us the whole unvarnished truth? Or was he maybe shaping the facts to fit his own grander theory about the war? See, Thucydides makes this really powerful argument. He says the real cause of the war, it wasn't any one event. It was the deep, growing fear that Sparta had of Athens's unstoppable empire. He basically dismisses stuff like Potidaea as just complaints, the triggers, but not the deep-down cause. Okay, but that raises a huge question, right? If Potidaea was so minor, just a complaint, then why was it the thing that directly led to the big war congress at Sparta where they voted to go to war? This is where we have to put on our detective hats. Some historians today argue that Thucydides, for all his genius, might have deliberately downplayed the whole Potidaea affair. Why? Because a messy, specific, and arguably avoidable fight over one city, it just didn't fit his elegant theory about an inevitable clash of titans. Now, don't get me wrong, Thucydides is an incredible source. He's analytical, he tries to be even-handed, but his own powerful argument might have created a blind spot. I mean, think about this. He spends 40 chapters on that naval battle at Corcyra, but the Potidaea crisis gets just a fraction of that. And maybe most importantly, in his whole history, we never hear from a single person from Potidaea. The voice of the city at the center of the storm is completely silent. So after all that, where do we land? What's the final verdict? Was Potidaea the cause, or just a symptom of a much bigger disease? Well, while it probably wasn't the deep, structural cause of the war, Thucydides was likely right about the bigger picture of Spartan fear. It was absolutely the critical catalyst. It was the event that turned abstract fear into concrete military action. Corinth sending troops was a blatant violation of the peace treaty that nobody could ignore. And it was this specific action that Corinth used as leverage to force Sparta's hand and call the meeting that started the war. Maybe the best way to think about it is this. The Greek world was already sick with suspicion and fear. Potidaea was the fever that finally broke, revealing that the illness was terminal. It turned the long Cold War between Athens and Sparta into a blazing hot one because it dragged their most important allies into a direct, bloody fight that neither side could back down from.
And all of this leaves us with one last, kind of provocative thought. If even the greatest, most careful historian of the ancient world might have shaped the facts to fit his favorite theory, what does that say about how we should consume information today? It's a powerful reminder that history isn't just a list of things that happened. It's a story, and we should always be asking ourselves who is telling it and why.